So we'll get started. It's 6:32. So let's get this show on the road. Welcome to the Coalition of Manitoba Cultural Communities for Families Incorporated second annual general meeting. You can tell by my excitement, I'm already tripping over my own words. It seems like we were just here last year doing the same thing virtually, and hello, we're here again virtually. So we're so glad you can join us tonight for our second general meeting. I am Kadeen Cummins, the vice chair of the board of directors, and I will be your chair for tonight's proceeding for this meeting. Before we get started, however, I would like to acknowledge that CMCCF is located on the original lands of the Anishinaabeg, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves, to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. I would like to run through a few technical difficulties before we get into the nitty-gritty of tonight's meeting. First, I'll ask everyone to begin by typing your full name, your organization, or the community that you're from or represent, and or the country or province where you're joining us from tonight. So I'll put what I'm asking for in the chat box, and I'll give you a few minutes just to put that out there for me, please. Thank you. So your full name, the community you represent, or organization, and the country or province where you're located. You see we have Manso present, and we have Zeris. We have our friend from Quebec, from Ontario. So I said, we've gone beyond geographical boundaries of Winnipeg, hey? So thank you all for doing that. For those who are still getting it into the chat, please do so, and I'll jump on and move on. So our AGM should last at about 30 minutes, give or take, as we have a very exciting panel following this meeting. So we'll get right into it. We have a number of people joining us today on this platform. So we are going to be muting participants' mic to reduce the noise disruption. If you wish to ask any questions, please use a chat mode, and our chat moderator will assist you with that process. So remember, we're going to be muting you, and please use a chat mode. Thank you. Also, if you're experiencing any technical issues, you can also use our chat mode and also our chat line in order to let us know so we can render some assistance where necessary. For tonight's meeting, our quorum has been met by the members of the corporation who are the current board of directors who are entitled to vote. For those members who are voting tonight, we will ask you to use a chat mode on the Zoom site to signify your vote in favor, opposed, or abstain. Those are the three options. Please use your keyboard to choose the option you prefer, and please note there is one vote per current board member per item. Just keep that in mind. Please also note our AGM minutes and the package, which includes the agenda, the previous minutes, financial statements, that was all provided to the members of the board prior to this meeting via email. Please also note that this meeting is being recorded for organizational purposes. And what I'll also do at this time, I'll also just take a minute for those who joined us after I gave the introductory statement, and I'll ask you to write your full name, the community or organization that you're representing, and also where you're located for this meeting. And I'll repeat that several times throughout the night. So at this time, you'll see your agenda. Just make sure everything is there, our agenda on the screen. Perfect. There we go. So our agenda is on the screen. You'll see that I'll be calling the meeting to order in just a few moments. We'll be approving our AGM agenda, the previous minutes. We'll go into our reports, and then we'll do our nominations, and we'll adjourn the first section, which is the business portion of our AGM, and move into our panel discussion later on. The panel discussion following the AGM, the business portion, will be very exciting and interesting. The topic that we'll be exploring is what we owe each other. So as I've mentioned, my name is Kadeen Cummins. I'm the Vice Chair of the Board of Directors, and I call this meeting to order on this day, October 28, 2021, at 6:38 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll start by asking if I would like to bring forward a motion to adopt the AGM agenda, as I've previously read, and I'd like to invite a board member to move this motion, please. I did not hear who was that, sorry?
Mengusto.
Mengusto, thank you, Mengusto. And can I have a second, please, from a board member?
Seconded.
Thank you, Erickson. All in favor? Board members? All in favor? Remember your three options: in favor, oppose, or abstain. Perfect, thank you. So the motion has been approved by the board members. I'd also like to move, thank you guys. I'd also like to move a motion to adopt our previous AGM meeting minutes. Can I have a board member?
It's so moved.
Kathleen moves, and I think Erickson's going to second.
Thank you. And all in favor? Oppose or abstain? The motion is approved. Thank you. So at this time, we will move right into our annual report, and I'll invite, in order as I speak, I'll invite Florence, followed by Florence and Martin, then followed by Steve, and also Miriam. Thank you.
So I'll start first then. Thank you, Kadeen. Florence will follow with her comments that we've actually prepared today. We've actually written a paper that's now on our website, which is actually what we want to speak very briefly about. But please go to our website, and Kadeem, if you can put our website on the chat mode for people to go directly to it. It's under one of our stories, and the theme for tonight is cultural communities creating their future. And I want to start off by thanking you for being here tonight. As I've let people in. And thank you to everybody for being here tonight. And I want to thank our funders, of course, because they're very important in terms of supporting our platform of the coalition for Manitoba Cultural Communities for Families. That's the Winnipeg Foundation and the Winnipeg Suicide Prevention Network. Our role as a coalition is to engage and empower communities and their voices to be informed about how they can influence public policy development and the practices of many diverse service providers. As well, we continue to ensure that there are deliberate engagement opportunities with both policymakers and service providers, even through Zoom, with our diverse network with respect to both their community's needs and community strengths and assets. In that regard, and I'm thanking many of the people who've been involved in our work over the last year. And their act of courage for participating and engaging in very difficult conversations. And I think from my point of view, and I know Florence would say the same thing, that is a very strong act of citizenship. We know that they have contributed to the formation of many of our new committees this year, even during COVID and using Zoom. We've actually created more committees, more working groups, more roundtables, and we do have a research advisory council, and we have members from all those groups there on our site tonight. That structure that we put in place bodes well for us, and we believe that we're starting to actually enhance and expand the number of communities and individuals who are engaged in our community network. We'd like to thank CMWI for their involvement and support of CMCCF. That's the Canadian Muslim Women's Institute. And specifically, there are two people I like to point out, and that's Zuleika Rahim and Yasmin Ali, who've been very instrumental in helping us move forward. And Zuleika has been incredibly supportive and helpful. She's the one who actually handles our financial management. And we've developed a very strong relationship. So thank you again, Zuleika and Yasmin. And lastly, but not last, of course, is the fact that we want to thank our board of directors and our colleagues of Steve, Miriam, Merritt for the commitment to our vision and our ability to move forward. So now I'm going to turn this over to Florence and in a very short period of time, speak to what's in the paper. And again, if you'd like to see the paper and read it, it's actually on our website. So I'll turn this over to Florence now.
Thank you very much, Martin, and welcome everyone to our annual general meeting. Martin, I must commend you for speaking and at the same time multitasking, letting people in. So thank you very much for your wonderful cooperation and assistance on that. Continuing on what Martin have just said, in recent times, the very definition of what constitutes a community has been disrupted. We all can agree with that, which in turn has given rise to new challenges for cultural communities. This year, we are posing three core questions to our network and our allies to consider. We all know that cultural communities, the meaning have changed. So what is the meaning that we have in our mind concerning communities? As some communities and their leaders may be facing an existential challenge to their sense of purpose in strengthening health and well-being, these questions invite reflection that will ultimately lead to the creation of strong, sustainable future cultures. So CMCCF, over the years, have looked at all this and come up with these three questions. What has happened to our cultural communities and their traditional purpose? What is the most significant challenge facing communities now? What will it take for cultural communities to develop plans to create their futures together? So these are the three questions that CMCCF wants to put and wants to begin to work on. And in tackling these questions, CMCCF came to the conclusion, or rather is focusing our aim at solving these three questions. And one of them is considering the paradigm shift in making meaning for communities. Many cultural communities are now facing a paradigm shift. We all know that. Unfortunately, we have continued to notice that for many cultural communities, the belief that they held their members in community is no longer true. Same is happening at each community, as everybody now has a different scope of things that they want to focus on. In these times, before, during, and potentially after the pandemic, many cultural communities have faced rapid secular, faith, and relational change. They have therefore had to create a new landscape of meaning making to their members and have had to consider new ideas of defining what it means to be a community. See, I can't even say that enough, because it's a change that we are grappling with in our minds, trying to change the idea of community that we already know to what we think is coming up. Our deeper exploratory question in response to this is, in these times, where do you find your community, my community? So it's a question that CMCCF is posing to everyone tonight. As you think about your community, think about, where do you find your community? Do they have any relevance anymore? Or is their paradigm shifting? Is your value shifting? Whatever makes you a community, is the pandemic, did it cause it to shift? The second question we are going to look at is, what loneliness can teach us? What can community come out of this pandemic? What is the effect? We believe the role of community might, in fact, lie in the very crisis that people in our cultural communities are facing. We believe that we are now in a crisis of isolation, where loneliness is leading to despair, and our social fabric may be fraying. Recent statistics indicate that self-reported loneliness is an epidemic among immigrants, both those recently arrived and those who have been here long term. As an immigrant, we all know that we are all happier when we meet each other. So we have meetings, we have centers where we go to meet each other. But now the pandemic has taken that away from us. And then there is loneliness, because we don't have our cultural connections anymore where we can meet people, especially for us from the African. I believe same with other communities as well. One of the things we do when we see each other is we embrace each other. But those ones are even thrown out the window now. We cannot do that anymore. So we suffer from social isolation. Research suggests that immigrants tend to report higher levels of both social and emotional aspect of loneliness, with a lack of intimate, close personal connections. It seems that in real times, we have lost someone to care for us in the moments when we most need it. There is no one to rely on, no one to trust. In the past, cultural communities played an important role for many new Canadians. I remember as a new immigrant, I was welcomed by my community. My community was there to take me around. My community was there to share their meals with me. My community was there to tell me where to go buy stuff. My community was there to tell me how to adapt. But now all this is not happening to new immigrants coming in. They just arrive from the airport and they go straight to their isolated apartments or their building. Can you imagine that? This focus leads us to explore some related questions. Are cultural communities able to meet this need? How are cultural communities facing their future, their identity, and their role in ensuring the health and well-being of their members? How are they addressing the changing environment where those who may see value in community have other options available to them to create other forms of community which they may value even more? And this leads us to the third aspect of Ubuntu as a guiding approach. You know, I was so happy when we, came into this topic, and I said, when will this topic, this word be even, I think it's even more relevant now than ever. In our view, CMCCF has a value-driven network of cultural communities. We would like to apply the concept of Ubuntu, the quality of being human, to respond to these current challenges when we act upon a deep sense of being connected to others by our common humanity. When we truly regard self and other as one, when we cherish human dignity, all our relationships and the level of our behaviors and actions are raised to a much higher plane. Ubuntu requires of us to activate these values in our communities, communality: respect, dignity, value, acceptance, sharing, co-responsibility, humanness, social justice, fairness, personhood, morality, group solidarity, compassion, joy, love, fulfillment, and reconciliation. Once again, Ubuntu is all about all of us working together as human beings, regarding everything, knowing that I alone cannot exist, my community alone cannot exist, my family cannot exist without another family. Also recognizing the importance of the human in everybody, recognizing the value and importance of everyone around us. Please join us in seeking Ubuntu together. We do this by seeking ways to contribute to our network and seeking ways in which we can support each other. For the various communities focusing on creating their future, we can seek ways to nurture their identity and perhaps multiple identities. We can seek ways to increase diversity and inclusion in many parts of their communities, and we can ultimately seek to plan together. So thank you once again to everyone that is here today. We hope that you enjoy the AGM as we move on forward. Thank you. Kidim?
Miriam and Steve, do you think they're ready to go, Florence?
Pardon me?
Miriam and Steve are up next and they're ready.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much, Kadeen. And thank you, Martin and Florence, for those inspiring words. As we only have a few minutes, we're not going to go through all of the exciting programs and plans that we have undertaken over the course of this past year and plans for the future. But in a moment, I'm going to give Miriam an opportunity to share with you some highlights of some things that we started in this past year. But first, again, as both Martin and Florence did, I want to thank everyone who's participated over the course of this past year on our various committees, on our various program events, and all who have in some way shared their wisdom with us. The other thing that I just want to briefly share with you and talk about, and I think it very much falls in line with what you've already heard from Martin and from Florence, is that in many ways, while this past year and the pandemic has certainly impacted all of us in a variety of different ways and provided us with many challenges, I think we've also learned from our experiences throughout the course of this past year. And one of the things that I think has certainly stood out for me, and I think for many who have participated in the work that we do, is that it's become even more vitally important for us to provide those opportunities and safe spaces for community members to not only have their voices heard, but to be active participants in creating their future. And so as we develop new programs moving forward, that's going to become even more critical for us, is providing every opportunity for community members to not only share their viewpoint, but to be able to have the opportunity to create their future in a way that makes sense for them and is important to them. In doing that, we will continue while we can, continuing to use our virtual avenues to create those safe spaces, but we also look forward, hopefully in the not too distant future, to be able to also begin to meet in person again. I think we feel that that's particularly important, as Florence has indicated. Loneliness and isolation has become even more epidemic for many community members across various communities. And in doing so, while virtual connections can help somewhat, we also know that in-person connections are so important for everyone as well. In moving forward, as I just mentioned, I want to give Miriam an opportunity to share with you a couple of important highlights that I think reflect the work that we're doing and fit very much in with the mission that has been outlined. I'm Miriam, I'll turn it over to you, and then I'll have a couple of other comments for us to wrap up.
Okay, thank you, Steve. So I'll just mention two projects that we're working on right now related to child welfare. So these projects that we're doing with child welfare, one of the projects we're working with the GA and Winnipeg CFS right now. And through this project, we really want to make sure in anything we do, the voices of community is reflected in their work and in decision making, in policy, in whatever is done that affects community. The decisions also reflects what community needs, and their voices are heard in this area. We also have a child well-being roundtable, and with this roundtable we just started, we really try to work closely with community members, giving them a chance to make sure they are heard, what are their challenges, and what are good ways for us to work together. And they're also along the way part of the whatever changes we make, they're part of it. So decisions are not made for them, they are part of the planning. And anything that we do, we make sure that community is really there along the way, and we're not really speaking for them, and their voices are heard, and there's room for them to feel like not only they're heard, but they're also valued within community and then also within society.
Great, thanks for that, Miriam. And just before we finish up and move on to the next item on our agenda, the other thing that I just want to share briefly with everyone, because I think it's another important fact that we've learned over the course of this last year, and something that we were aware of before, but as I mentioned earlier, I think COVID has really enhanced for us the importance of this. Well, our primary focus is certainly creating safe spaces for voices within Manitoba to be heard. We also recognize that we are now really much through technology connected to the broader world. And in many ways, the technology allows us to reach out globally. We talked last year briefly about one of the networks that we created called the Wisdom of Hardship Circle. And I just want to take a moment to talk a little bit more about how we've expanded that circle over the course of this past year. But also, you will see in our written report, which we will post next week, we've also created a number of other networks, bringing people together from a variety of different places around the globe to not only share their ideas. That's important for us as well, because we also know that many of our community residents here in Manitoba also have strong links to their home countries, and we want to do whatever we can to enhance those links. This year, our Wisdom of Hardship Circle has expanded so that our core group now has representation from literally across the globe. We have members in Asia, in Europe, in South America having joined us, as well as in North America as well. Our most recent event, which I think highlights the fact that we're now bringing people together from around the world, was an event that we just hosted about a week ago as part of World Values Day. This was our second opportunity to celebrate World Values Day and to put together an amazing discussion, which again brought participants from a number of different countries, and including folks here in Manitoba, to talk about the importance of their values and to look at very ways that they live those values. That very much complements the work that we're doing, and we'll have more to talk about that and expanding those networks as we move forward. But for now, I think what again I'd just like to do is, on behalf of Miriam and myself, thank everyone, including the board, the other staff of the coalition, and certainly all of you who have participated in one or more of our events or serve on one of our committees, to thank you for all the time and the wisdom that you've shared with us. So thank you again.
Thank you. So we had Florence, thank you, Florence, who is the chair of the board of directors, presented. We have also had Martin, who is our CEO, Miriam, who is our research and planning coordinator, and Steve is our program and initiatives coordinator. So thank you all for your report. For those who joined us after the start of the meeting, I'm just going to repeat. I'm going to ask you kindly to put in the chat box your full name, the organization or community that you're representing tonight, and also your location, the country or province, whichever you're most comfortable with. So please do that, and that's for record purposes, because I know I've seen people here from Brazil, Ukraine, Quebec, so we're scattered. So we want to make sure we capture that accurately. Thank you. We'll move into our financial statements report for the year ended March 31st, 2020. And I will 2021, sorry, and I will invite Kathleen and Zuleika to take this section on.
Okay, So I will go first. There's two parts to this, so I will take the first part. My name is Zulaika Rahim, and I'm currently serving on the board of the Canadian Muslim Women's Institute, or CMWI, as the treasurer. This is our second year, I believe, presenting for CMCCF. As Martin have said, we have built a strong relationship over the years, so we've been working together on these. So CMWI, as many of you might know, is the host organization of the Coalition of Manitoba Cultural Community for Families, or CMCCF. As the host organization, all the funds for the coalition flows through CMWI bank account. These funds are monitored and managed by CMWI on behalf of CMCCF and disbursed under the direction of CMCCF with supporting documentations. Based on the inflows and outflows of funds, I have reconciled the accounts and compiled the financial statements for the year ended March 31st, 2021 that I will now present to you. These statements have been prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting standards, and I have done them myself because it's a small organization, not much cash, as you can see. So I'll delve right into it. And the first statement you're looking at is the statement of financial position, or commonly known as the balance sheet. The cash balance there, as you can see, from 2020 to 2021 has depleted significantly. So from that, I can tell maybe this organization needs more grants, more support, more funds. I'm not sure that would last them out with the great work they're doing for 2021. The accounts receivable is $4,500. Those are funds outstanding at the fiscal year March 31st, 2021. Other receivable is our GST rebate that went in after the year end of March 31st, 2021. So the total assets sitting at $26,454 currently. The current assets here, liability and assets, accrued liabilities, those are amounts that outstanding to be paid at the end of the fiscal year. The deferred contribution stands at $24,361. Those are unused funds that has been deferred to the following year. And the other is the deferred GST, which is $480. There's no net asset because there is no income. We are nonprofit, so we're not in the business of making a profit, and that number there most time will be zero or very minimal. So our total liability and net asset is $26,454, and that is for the balance sheet. So there's still some funds. Now I move on to the statement of revenue and expenditure, or commonly known as the income statement. Contribution that was recognized, it's not necessarily money received during the year. This might be deferred funds as well coming forward, but those are the amount of money that we recognize as contribution to spend on the projects. Communication and marketing has gone up significantly, 1,600 to 2,194. Education and awareness, there was no expenses incurred for the current year. Community engagement, 2,475. Equipment and supplies, again, very minimal, 549. And facilitator, that's 19,988, the person responsible and in charge for overseeing the entire organization. Administration is 696, and there was nothing for meeting expense, I guess, due to COVID. Zoom has been saving us a lot of money, I guess, in meetings. So excess of revenue over expenses, as I said, there is nothing. The contribution equal to the expense, so there is no excess revenue or net income reporting there. One thing that's not reflected here is the fair value of donated services or donation in kind. And I'm sure there's many services that has been donated to this organization to keep it going. It cannot be reasonably determined and therefore not reflected in these financial statements. So for many nonprofits, we know they're heavily driven by volunteer, and I think CMCCF is no different. Thank you very much. And that is the end of the financial part. I'll now hand it over to Kathleen.
Thanks, Zuleika. So before I make our motion, I just wanted to note just a quick thing, like Zuleika said, much of our funding is in-kind contributions and it's not stated on the financial statement. And within the context of how CMCCF has been operating, we've really been stretching our funding to accommodate the changing needs of our programming. So an example of that would be more funds in the area of technology development and using that to provide our programming. And one thing that we really want to note is that we are actively continuing to seek other funds from other sources that we would hope to use going forward to enhance our programming and add to the funding that we have. And we're also, since we are relatively new, we are planning to seek charitable status in the future. So we just wanted to note that as well. So with that, I will set forth a motion. So I make the motion to accept these financial statements as final for the year ended March 31st, 2021, and no further adjustments will be made in the books. So I'll pass it to Kadeen.
Thank you, Kathleen. Board members, can I have a second, please?
I second it.
Thank you, Dr. Belshaw. Board members, all in favor, oppose, or abstain, please indicate in the chat. Perfect. Thank you. The motion is approved. Thank you, Kathleen. Kathleen is our secretary / treasurer for the organization, for the board of directors, and Zuleika, as she mentioned, has sat in as our accountant since our inception as CMCCF. So thank you both for your continued contribution and for your hard work in ensuring that our financial stability continues for us to be able to deliver the services we want. Thank you so much. I'll also invite Kathleen at this point in time to bring forward the new nominees to the board of directors.
Thank you, Kadeen. So our bylaw number 1 allows us to have up to 12 members, and we currently have 8 directors who will be returning. Thank you all very much for your service thus far. So I'm pleased to present the returning directors of CMCCF as Erickson Teo Jones, Anna Ganada, Brahanu Balcha, Mengustu Asefa, Florence Okowidili, Simrat Daniels, Kadeen Cummings, and myself, Kathleen Byron. We have 4 new nominations to present to this AGM, and we are nominating Christine Oraku, Arun Kumar Chauhan, Saran Seom, and Jian Singh Lally. We're excited for these nominations, and we've asked each of the nominees to speak for a minute or so about their reasons for joining the board of directors and what they wish to contribute to over the next few years. I was lucky enough to not have to do this last year, so sorry guys. But so I'll just call you guys one each. You can just unmute yourselves and just let everyone know a little bit about yourselves. So Christine, we'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Oriaku. I am from Rwanda. I came to Canada in 2005, and I am a mother of 4, 2 boys and 2 girls, and I am happy to join the CMCCF When I heard about the organization, I was happy to know more, and I'm willing to join and work with you all, and because I was always interested in community engagement, be involved and involve others, like you Florence and Martin mentioned that they mentioned what you have been doing, and I think it's a good thing and it's needed where for people to understand what other people can do for communities and other families, and yeah, so I'm willing to work with you and to give my time and to be involved in any way and learn more.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Christine.
you so much.
Thank you. All right, so Aaron, we'll go to you next.
Am I audible to everybody?
Yeah, you're good to go.
Hey, hello, Kathleen, and hello, everybody. As Martin told us that somebody should join whenever we are getting a nomination. So me and wife is here, and her name is Alka, and she's actually a new immigrant, like just 3 months before she arrived here. So one of you has pointed out that there are a couple of things like the challenges which are faced by the immigrants are like the most important after the COVID. And yeah, that's true. Our communities used to help the people to adapt, but because of the COVID, this isolation stuff, so we guys know what's going on. So basically coming to my background, as my name is Arun Kumar Chauhan, and my background is I have done the Human Resource Management certificate from University of Manitoba. Thereafter, I worked with a couple of organizations like Best Buy Canada. I worked for a Scotia Bank for a while. And then currently with the Sherwin-Williams company as a store manager. Coming to the community side, I always try to involve in helping the new immigrants, specifically the students who come from India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, like all East Indian community. And the basic challenges which they face is like getting a job, helping them in resuming, no charging, nothing, just free of cost. I just want to help my community with my best potential. So the reason for joining me, this wonderful organization, last time when we had a discussion, me, Gian, and Martin was there when he explained that actually touches us, that how we can do some fruitful things, some good things in future, and we could be the part of the suggestions and the feedback system which CMCCF is gonna be presenting to the policymakers. So I would be glad to be the part of this organization. Thank you so much for everyone. Thank you everyone for their wisdom to listen me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arun, and welcome, Alka. Glad you could join us.
Thank you so much.
So I'll pass it over to Saran now.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Saron Siom. Born and raised in Eritrea, and I came to Canada and specifically Winnipeg 8 years ago. I completed 2 years of high school here and then joined university, and I recently graduated with social work. My work experience has been around mental health, disability, and now currently I'm working as immigrant settlement worker. Reason why I have joined this beautiful organization. Well, first of all, I was introduced by Miriam. And of course, the core values of the organization aligned with me personally, and I had always been interested in community building. And especially, coming from a different country, adjusting to Canada has been challenging, and I definitely would be more than happy to help others and members of communities positively. And yeah, thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Sarah. And last but not least, we're gonna call on Gian. See here.
Florence, Kathleen, I think we might have lost Gian because he was at work.
Okay.
And I'm not seeing him in the room at this point in time, but unfortunately he was asked to stay longer than expected. So
Okay.
yeah, he was in earlier, but I'm guessing he's probably been called to a task. So unfortunately he won't be able to speak. So I'll ask you to proceed, Kathleen.
Okay, sounds good. So therefore, I'm going to move the nomination of Christine, Arun, Saran, and Gian to the Board of Directors of CMCCF.
So board members, can I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mengusto. All board members in favor? All board members in favor, please indicate in the chat box if you abstain or I just pull a blank or so in favor, oppose, or abstain. Sorry, please indicate in the chat box. The motion has been moved. Welcome. So congratulations, Christine, Arun, Saran, and Gian. Welcome to the Board of Directors of CMCCF. Thank you, Kathleen, for bringing the nominations forward. And I'd like to officially call this AGM business meeting to a close at 7:20 p.m. on October 28, 2021.